Everyone loves a good plot twist when some new information is revealed or something that happens that reframes everything that we've seen before or changes the trajectory of where things are headed. So today I'm gonna give you my picks for the 10 best movie plot twists of all time. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean Chandler, and I love to talk about movies way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your picks for your favorite movie plot twists, surprise endings of all time. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. As I discuss this, I'm kind of including both big reveals as well as kind of big twists. They're not exactly the same thing, but when people talk about big movie twists, they tend to kind of blend the two together, and that's what I'm gonna do with this list here. One more thing before we get started. This video is brought to you by my supporters over on Patreon. Every single month, I have them suggest ideas for a video on my main channel, and then I have them vote on it. This month, they picked top 10 movie plot twists. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a membership site. You can join for as little as $2. There's actually a companion video to this one over on Patreon with 9 more of my favorite plot twists of all time. You can unlock that video by joining over on Patreon. And with that said, let's get started. Number 10, Arrival. This is a movie that just does a great job of using conventional storytelling techniques to misdirect the audience as we're watching the film. When it's establishing our understanding of the characters and the rules of the film, it does things that we very frequently see in films, so we interpret the information one way. As you go through this film, it then starts to establish new rules for how things work in light of how they're communicating with aliens and the use of time and how that changes things up a little bit. And because of this, they're able to do this big, gigantic twist where you realize that you misinterpreted everything you saw before. But it's not just that they misdirected you. The movie itself provides the change of the rules that made for all of this. And so it's an incredibly powerful moment as you realize that all this stuff that we saw at the beginning actually happens later on in the end of the film after the events or main events of it. And it just makes for one of these moments that just fits so perfectly with the themes woven throughout the film, as well as the nature of the story that they told and the gimmicks that were distinct that would be like, oh, that's kind of a clever gimmick. But when they incorporated it so well with these character arcs and what we knew about them and what we now know about them at the end of the film, powerful stuff. Number 9, Friday the 13th. It's easy to forget that this movie actually has a very big twist ending to it because the franchise is so known for having Jason Voorhees as the killer in the franchise. But way back with the original film, that was just the rumor, the speculation that it was Jason come back to taunt the kids. And in fact, actually, it was Jason's mom all along, which makes for a really nice little misdirect inside of the film because you don't think of old ladies normally as killers. You don't think of them as threats. They're not intimidating. And so on so many levels, she's disarming, though she is armed, to kill people at the same time. And put all that together, you have a movie that in certain ways, pretty traditional kind of slasher flick, but it has this big twist ending to it that so often gets forgotten because of where the franchise ended up going. Next up is Frozen. Now this is a movie because it's so popular, because the songs are so well known and the characters are so distinct and lively, sometimes we forget about some of the other strong elements of the film, and I think it has a very effective twist going into the third act as we realize that Prince Charming is actually the villain of the film. And the reason that I think it's a really good twist is that everything up to that point in time in the film has set up all the tropes of the genre. It's set up all the Disney princess cliches about falling in love at first sight, love's first kiss, having incredible powers. All of this stuff is classic Disney source material. And so you get to that moment in time where everything has been building to this moment, and they've been presenting him as this guy that's trying to swindle everybody, so he's trying to swindle us, the audience, too. So when you get there, and it twists and turns, and you realize, oh, that's not really what this movie is about. The lesson that our characters are supposed to learn is it's all about these two sisters. And so the twist itself has been set up by the genre, and then it's also been set up by the movie, and then the themes pay it off so well because it's not just a plot twist, it's a theme twist where you understand what the movie is truly about in that moment as you go to what actually saves Anna in the end. That's what makes for a great twist. Number 7, SpiderMan Homecoming. So of the Marvel movies, this for me is one of the more fun and rewatchable films, and because I've watched it so many times, it's easy to forget that there's a really great twist in this movie as Spider-Man heads off to Homecoming, opens the door, and our main villain answers the door as he's the daughter of the date for the Homecoming dance itself. And the way this works so well in the movie because you don't typically meet a lot of the parents of those types of characters in films like this. So it's not something that our attention is caught that we've never seen her dad. We didn't meet any of his other friends' parents either in the film. And so as you're going through it, it's able to show the Vulture character in all these other settings. And so when you get to this moment and he opens the door, you don't feel cheated. You don't feel like, wait a minute, how does that make any sense? There's no reason this couldn't be the case. It even why was he so nearby in certain events that happened earlier in the film? You go, oh, that makes a little bit of sense that this could happen. So when it happens, it just blows your mind. And actually, like when I first saw it, I was like, took a second for me to my brain to recalibrate what was happening. Going, oh, he's the dad. And you go into this dialogue and they start interacting, talking in those moments, and it's like powerful, powerful stuff as you have this gigantic just twist in the film. And it's one of the reasons that the movie doesn't need to have the Vulture blowing up the city to have a powerful third act, because it's now become so personal and you feel so violated because your superheroes are supposed to have normal life and separate life with supervillains, and now he just showed up at the supervillain's house. That makes for a nice little moment. Number 6, Unbreakable. I absolutely love this film, and one of the reasons for it is that I just feel that M. Night crafted such a great film that establishes so many paths that when you get to the final moment, it just makes sense in light of everything that he's established that there would be a counterbalance to the David Dunn character, and it would be Mr. Glass. And they're able to misdirect you throughout the film by having Mr. Glass present himself as that counterbalance, but we only think about it in terms of strength and weakness rather than good and evil. And because of that, when you get to that moment, you just feel the whole movie coming together. Like, it makes sense. Everything that we've seen up to this point in time comes together. So I always love that. Some people don't like that the movie ends at that moment. They want to see more of what's going to happen, how he gets arrested. I just think it's like the perfect end for the movie that they were telling, because the story is about David Dunn becoming the hero that he's supposed to be, and that's happened. And then we learn, oh yeah, all this happened because the supervillain wanted to realize who he was too. I love that. Bringing us into the top 5 is Gone Girl. Now this one was a fun one to watch because I didn't know much about the movie when I saw it, and my wife had read the book. So we went into the film, and the first act is establishing that this wife has disappeared. They're supposed to have this super happy marriage, at least by everyone's understanding. And then you get to this one scene where the twist happens and you realize what's really going on, and you reinterpret it in light of what the girl actually did. And my wife looks over at me and just watches me go, my eyes get big and my jaw drops. And it just reframes everything in this way that was like, this is how you do plot twists. And you're only a third of the way through the movie, and there's no shortage of additional twists and turns and moments where my wife went, as I just went, and all this stuff that kept happening. And once again, it's a movie that does a great twist because it sets up all your thoughts about what happened, and you're thinking the movie's going to be one thing. You think it's going to be about discovering what happened and meeting the wife through flashbacks and things like that, and then you go, oh no, everything has been a misdirect. Both what happened, their marriage, all of it. Well played. Number 4, Fight Club. This is one of those movies that came out right as I was an upperclassman in high school, so all of the guys absolutely loved this movie. We'd get together, watch Fight Club, and then we'd go out back and have our very own Fight Club. But as for the plot twist itself, the movie does this really nice job of establishing this narrator as this person that needs someone to enter his life to spice things up. Enter Tyler Durden, that takes him on this adventure of discovery, of chaos, of anarchy, of fight clubs, and who's so much cooler than him that it's all the things that he wants to be, only for us to learn as we move into the final section of the movie. It was the narrator all along, and his personality was split, and he was going between these two personas, and we'd been misled this entire film. Nice little twist. Got me the first time that I watched it. I didn't have it spoiled for me. And it's one of those ones that when you rewatch the film, it adds all these extra layers to what you're seeing in it. And once again, that's what you want from a plot twist, to pull the rug out from underneath you and make the second viewing even better. Real quick before I give you my top 3, remember to share your picks down below in the comment section. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. Also, if you go down to the comment section, obviously, be careful of catching spoilers for movies. Also, remember over on Patreon, I have a companion video to this with 9 more of my favorite plot twists of all time, and you can unlock that by joining at any level over on Patreon. The link is down below in the description. In third place is Memento. This is another formative film for me that right as I was getting into cinema on a deeper level, this guy named Christopher Nolan came along and told a story in reverse order. I went to go see it and had my mind absolutely blown. I was captivated from beginning to end as the mystery as to what exactly was going on. And then you get into the final sequences and you start to realize that because of the memory loss, we have a severely unreliable narrator who's been informing us this entire time. And these flashbacks that we thought were of this other person are in fact Leonard's story itself. This mission he's on was a false mission altogether. And everything that we thought we knew was a lie and something else entirely has been going on this entire time. It only works because the story is kind of in the structured form and it ties back to the nature of the character himself. And some people would say, well, I mean, if you just put the movie in normal order, none of this really works. It's not a twist ending. None of it's very interesting. It's like, right. But that's what makes the movie so brilliant, is that it's using cinema and storytelling to do something different. It is compelling because the unreliable narrator can make for these twist endings and play out differently. That is exactly why it's such a unique film, that I love that it exists, that we have something like this. Our runner-up is The Sixth Sense. This is actually the 3rd movie in the row on this list from that 1999 to 2000 small window of time. And so perhaps I'm a little bit biased towards those formative movies towards me, or maybe that's something to say that a good plot twist can be very formative towards someone's taste in movies. But this is a film that some people have argued that once you know the twist at the end of the film, that the movie doesn't really work anymore. I would totally disagree with that because it's a character study for both the boy and Bruce Willis's character. Each of them have an arc that works, whether you have the initial interpretation of the film or when you watch it a second time in light of all the reveals inside of the film. And I think that is what makes the movie have greater depth to it, beyond just there's a twist ending, because you care about their dynamic. They need one another for this journey that they're on of processing what's happening to them. And in light of the boy's reveal that he sees dead people and he really does see them, or with the Bruce Willis character that he in fact himself is dead and he's one of these ghosts being seen. But that's all the stuff that elevates it to that next level. It works without needing the twist ending, and when you throw the twist into it, you take a good thriller, a good character study, and you have a great movie that has extra layers when you watch it a second time and can interpret everything a little bit differently. But coming in first place is The Empire Strikes Back. I'm a Star Wars guy. This is one of the movies I grew up with that absolutely caused me to love movies, so naturally this is going to place very highly on my list. People frequently ask me, is there a movie that you wish you could watch for the first time once again? And this is probably the one that I would pick. Because if you've grown up with Star Wars, there was never that moment where you went, what? Vader is Luke's father? If you grew up with it, you just kind of always knew that, so you never had that moment of awe, shock, reveal. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about this particular twist is that the vast majority of Star Wars fans probably never got to experience that moment properly because it's been such a cultural phenomena for 40 years that there's all these new generations that have discovered Star Wars, grown up with it, and never actually gotten to experience that moment the way it was supposed to happen. And that's absolutely fascinating to me, but it doesn't change the fact that one of the great twists of all time that changed the trajectory of a franchise, there was an incredible awe moment in the film. We learn who Luke Skywalker's father is and who's really behind the mask. So, Empire Strikes Back comes in at number 1. Remember, you can find the companion video to this over on Patreon. You can find the link down below in the description. If you want more content like this, check out that video right over there. I don't actually know what YouTube is recommending to you right now, but I bet it's phenomenal. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.